You are a knight, trained from birth to listen to and work for whoever is able to best you. A year ago, you were captured by a humanoid dragon woman you were tasked to slay, but failed. Today she asks, are you going to try to escape or what? Escape? Who would protect you if I escaped? Alexander said, the knight seated with his back against the wall of his cell, not using the bed or chair that the dragon had offered him. The chains that once bound him to the wall had been removed months ago, and still he remained seated in that position, only getting up to eat or train his body. Erix didn't even bother locking the door to his cell anymore, hoping the knight would eventually leave on his own. Protect me? She gave a haughty laugh, hot breath escaping from her black lips. Need I remind you who lost the last battle we had? A gallant human effort is not enough to best someone who's lived over 1,000 years. She set herself down on his bed, brushing the edges of her flowing purple dress as she did, the horned, red-skinned humanoid staring down the human with her piercing yellow eyes. I'm aware I lost, which is why I must offer my loyalty to you. How else can I repay your kindness for allowing me to live? You bested me, and so I will serve you, my queen. The knight placed a hand over his heart, still wearing that torn-up chestplate from their previous fight, the blue armor scarred by dragon claws and bite marks. Kindness. You thought this was kindness. I hoped to lure the rest of your knights into my manor by using you as bait. This was not an act of mercy. Erix smirked at the word queen, enjoying the power it had behind it, those wings of hers pushing out from behind her back, giving a small flutter at the thought. Queen. She could get used to that. You say that, and yet you haven't killed me, even though I serve no purpose to you anymore. Oh, shall I kill you then? She leant forward, digging her palm into his chest plate. The metal creaked under the strength of her palm. Nevertheless, the knight refused to move, staring his queen in the eyes. My life is yours. Do what you see fit. Alexander didn't wish to die, but a knight's loyalty overruled even their primal instincts for survival. He had the knightly code beaten into him, and nothing would ever remove that from his mind. In all my 1,000 years, I've never met a human so peculiar. Killing you would be a waste. She removed her hand and stood, motioning him to his feet. Follow, dear knight. Alexander rose, following behind her. 1,000 years? That number still didn't make sense to him. She hardly looked a day over 40, let alone 1,000. He had been told by an old trainer that people enjoyed compliments, so he tried one. You don't look a day over 200. The dragon paused, raising an eyebrow. Pardon? You don't look a day over 200? Alexander's confidence fell apart when she turned to face him. She didn't look insulted or even annoyed, more confused as her neck tilted to the side, as if she was trying to view him from a new angle to get a better understanding. I don't look a day over 200? She repeated, neck returning to its upright position. She walked again, clicking her tongue as they walked the manor halls, leaving the dark depths of the dungeon. They passed through a hallway full of old paintings, each done by an artist she had kidnapped out of boredom. She stopped on one, pointing to it. I believe I was 200 in that painting. You say I look no different now? The painting was of a woman who looked to be in her early 20s. She had a ball gown on that gave her a sense of regality that was only diminished by the wild black hairs that were untamed on her head. The painting showed signs of rushed work, smudges, stains, and paint droplets scattering what would have been a fine artwork. Alexander took the painting in before looking at Erix. She didn't look the same as her 200-year-old self. He could see that now. He had to wonder what his trainer was thinking when he gave the advice about compliments. What person would appreciate a compliment so insincere? No, you do. You look a lot more mature and powerful now, like a queen. Again, he used that word, deciding to give a genuine compliment instead of the cheap ones his trainer offered. Erix stared at the knight, trying to read him. Here he was, a disheveled and disgraced knight in her opinion. One that should have been emotionally broken after his defeat. And still he had an air of chivalry about him. Those blonde hair were a mess, and his cheeks had sunken from a year of eating her scraps, and still he could walk with a stride of pride. Thank you, was all she offered back, continuing the tour of the manor. They went through the gardens first, which were a mess of plants and trees. Erix never had a green thumb, so every 50 years, she would steal away a farmer or two and get them to maintain the garden. She was nearing that 50-year mark now, having to kick away a few snakes as she pushed through the overgrown grass, entering the main hall. If you wish to serve me, I won't reject your offer, knight. Just know that I will expect utter loyalty from you. If I ask you to fight your kingdom, I expect you to do it. I will always seek the peaceful option first, my queen. I'll only raise a blade to my own if they prove to be unreasonable. Alexander said, realizing he didn't even have a sword to raise. The once shining sword he carried now sat atop Eric's hoard of treasures, lost among all her other belongings. Is that so? That doesn't sound like utter loyalty to me. She snarled, stopping by the couch, dropping onto it. I am loyal, my queen. I only ask that you allow me to try a peaceful approach before you ask me to stain my hands. A knight prides themselves on chivalry, and there is no dignity in killing for unjustified reasons. If peaceful negotiations fail, and the other side shows hostility, I will defend you until I fall. While that still didn't sound like undying loyalty to Eryx, she didn't have the energy to argue with the human. Fine. As long as I come first, I can overlook your lack of bloodlust. Now, since I have no wars for you to fight, I expect you to work around the manor. Why don't you clean up my garden? If you do that, maybe I'll give your sword back. My sword? You would return it? Bless your grace, my queen. Yes, yes. Bless me. Now get to work. Alexander bowed before walking to the gardens. The living room he walked through, looking far neater than the garden, with most of the furniture being new. Her constant hoard of treasures making it easy to decorate. The only thing that looked slightly worn was the coach she sat on, which had a few claw marks on it. Once he left, Eryx stretched out, letting out a yawn. What an odd night. Still, maybe being a queen isn't such a bad thing.